Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Below the Line, the show about how movies are made. My name is Andres Ramirez, and yes, it is May. May the 4th be with you. It's a Star Wars month with the Grogu and Mandalorian new film coming out. Will it be a success or not? Who knows? But here in Below the Line, we are excited to talk Star Wars. Finally, you got it. So I'm here with my Padawan, or my fellow Jedi Master, or Sith Master, I don't really know, Mr. Zach Houston Scott. How are you, man?
Not too bad, not too bad. So, wait, I'm a Padawan, a Jedi Master, and a Sith Lord? Like, that doesn't
I
make
don't
sense.
know. I don't know. You've been promoted.
I guess
You got.
so.
You are everything.
Yeah.
Or do you want to be an acolyte?
No. We'll talk about that in a few weeks. But no, this episode, folks, we are talking the positive aspects of Star Wars. The saga when it first began, all those years ago, before we were born, what inspired the blockbuster impact of the 1970s that has carried
And
forward
merchandising.
merchandising especially, yes, and honestly movies that really have held the test of time and constantly have been referenced and have been parodied and have been act as influences on other films. The original Star Wars trilogy from George Lucas, only as a director of one but writer of all three of them.
I'm
So,
producer.
and producer.
He
And
was like a showrunner, essentially.
yeah, he was basically producing and running the gambit of them all, like just giving suggestions here and there. But fun fact too for our below the line viewers, this was actually a proto episode for Andres and I back a couple years ago. Do you remember that?
Yeah, when we recorded for my never published podcast called Film Life, where we
Yeah,
discussed whether Star Wars was the ultimate independent film, because I think George Lucas doesn't get enough credit of how indie the first Star Wars film was. I mean, had no studio backup. The guy almost died of a heart attack, which was not a heart attack. It was just a panic attack during post production. Marshall Lucas saved that film. Like, the making of the original Star Wars is very much the making of a independent film in today's filmmaking landscape.
absolutely. And with the studio backing, that it was going to go on. People don't know that Fox was in serious financial trouble after the release of Cleopatra in the
Oh boy.
1960s. Like, it almost bankrupted the studio, and this was the movie that saved them and brought in the box office revenue that they desperately needed. The original, because it was for a long time the highest grossing film until a little film by Steven Spielberg came out and fixed that after taking it away from. I mean,
Jaws.
yeah, taking it away
I
from
mean,
Jaws.
that small film by Spielberg probably was in collaboration with George Lucas.
Maybe.
Isn't it Indiana Jones?
Nope, it's E.T.
Well, technically, Yoda is in that film, so I guess it's a Star Wars film.
Technically, yeah. And then E.T. returned the favor with Phantom Menace. So
Yeah, technically, they're of the Star Wars universe.
of the same universe, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
But no,
I
with
wonder. That's a major crossover from studios, like Universal and Disney collaborating without them knowing.
no. Well, when you have a
Well,
film like that, he actually saved Star Wars 2 in a way, like in the original screening.
oh, yeah.
He was pretty much the only one of his filmmaker friends who liked it and thought it had potential, but just needed some work in the editing room. So
I mean, to be fair, I think Steven Spielberg, out of all those filmmaking friends, was the most commercial one. I mean, it was Brian De Palma, Francis Ford Coppola, Martin Scorsese, and Steven Spielberg. Like,
yeah,
three out of those four make more art house type movies. Like, Scorsese would never make a Star Wars like film. So I think Spielberg is the one that probably understood what George Lucas wanted to do more than the other three, because the other three are serious directors. They're not fun directors like Spielberg, although he can be serious as well.
yeah, No,
But before we start talking about Star Wars, let's just get in the news of this week, shall we?
yeah, let's do it.
So, where do you want to start? There is a new movie with Meryl Streep that just came out. Is it a cash grab? We don't know because we have not seen it. But what do the critics say and how is it faring in the box office?
It's faring very well at the box office. It's on its way to make 75, 80 million in the Americans. So that's really well done. And it's already like positively received, and people seem to really engage with it. Like, it's a pretty good follow up. And honestly, just when I'm reading about it, it's also a pretty good commentary on modern media and how print journalism and print media is going away and trying to stay validated and referential in a sense. So, no, I'm very happy for this movie. Has a lot more smarts than just being another cash grab.
And for those that have not caught on, we're talking about Devil Wears Prada 2. Meryl
We,
Streep, Anne Hathaway, and Emily Blunt starring in the film, and Stanley Tucci, right? Too.
you're correct. They all came back.
Well, I mean, Disney had to pay big bucks because I read an interview that Meryl wanted double or nothing, and she was like, "I'm Meryl Streep," and Disney was like, "Yes, you are Meryl Streep, and we're gonna pay you that."
That's because that's a role she was nominated for an Academy Award for that movie in 2006.
Was she nominated for an Academy Award?
Yeah, she was.
I mean, she's Meryl Streep. She makes a movie and basically gets nominated by default.
It's such a good character, though. It's one of those that I did rewatch the movie this week, and I did find myself normally hating those kind of characters, but there's something kind of hilarious and sharp about her, and just this honest belief of what she is as a person that, she definitely knows her stuff, is just doing it to essentially save herself, but the company as a whole, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully the film is good, and we'll see if it has legs. Unlike Angel Studios' newest film, directed by Mr. Andy Serkis, which apparently has been a massive flop and a massive controversial film because of how it was marketed. Because apparently it's not faithful to Orwell's book, and it's quite a mess. Unfortunate for Serkis because he's directing the next Lord of the Rings film. What Warner hopes will start a Lord of the Rings uh, craze all over again, like it happened 20 years ago or more than 20. But
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me, though, honestly. Just all things considered. It's been in development for almost a decade, and just trying to take the themes of the original novel and modernize them and make it into a lame kids film is pretty much what I kind of expected. And having Angel Studios, the ones who did that Sound of Freedom and David movies, doesn't bode well for anyone for that sake.
well, it sounds like it's counter to what Angel Studios has been producing.
Yeah,
Or releasing at the very least. Because I mean, I don't know what your opinion of Sound of Freedom is, but I think as a film, aside from the behind the scenes of the film, it was a very thoughtful, intriguing film about a reality that we don't really know much about, which is in this case child trafficking. And I think it was well made, it was suspenseful, and it maybe brought light to a very sensitive issue. I know there's some behind the scenes drama of why that film might not have been supported by Disney, blah, blah, blah. But Angel Studios has had a solid track with a certain particular type of audience. But this film seems to be completely the other opposite side of the equation, if you know what I mean.
yeah, no, I agree with you. Honestly, just Sound of Freedom was good. I will give it that. Making of the film aside, but yeah, Animal Farm, just Seth Rogen as Napoleon. That's all I really need to say. Because yeah,
You
that's
know
I
him.
do. And,
Does that character fit him?
well, he hasn't marketed it on his Instagram, so not really. No.
I mean, he's busy dying in the boys.
Yeah, that was funny this week actually. Good episode as it's coming to a close in a few weeks.
It feels too much like filler, man.
I mean, they have to fill those 8 episodes somehow. And honestly, last episode wasn't a bad way to kill some time and have development. I
Yeah,
don't. I think it's going to pick up starting this week again.
it's just Homelander going crazy, like every other season.
At least there's not as many annoying characters this time,
I mean, he's killing them all.
which is good, as he should.
Yeah. And finally, I think the last news of the week was the Resident Evil trailer by Zach Krieger, right?
That was a Resident Evil trailer? I had no idea.
Well, you could only tell by the fact that they put Resident Evil on the title because this is an NPC of Resident Evil story. So
Yeah,
I wonder if he dies by the end,
he might.
or
I
if
mean, who
he
knows?
has Elpis from Requiem. Those who played know what I mean, but I don't know. This
For,
movie seems good in tone, but not as an adaptation. But we'll see.
yeah, no, I'll give him that. It looks like it's fine. Like it's definitely a Zach Krieger film, but definitely not one that is another Resident Evil film that misses the point of the games entirely. But that's just kind of the norm I've expected at this point. So
When they want to. I mean, the Requiem trailer with what's her name from you know, she's playing Grace's mom in the trailer. That's very well shot. And
yeah,
Capcom has financed some short films that are fan made, and they're also really good. So I don't know why Capcom cannot become like Nintendo and produce their films themselves and have control of the adaptation. But I don't know. It's too messy at this point.
yeah, no, I agree.
But now, ta da da dun dun ta da da dun dun, Star Wars time.
Yeah,
Finally.
let's talk it. Star Wars, alrighty. So we kind of alluded to it a little bit at the beginning, but what was your first exposure to Star Wars? I guess I should ask.
I think for me, Star Wars was buying lightsabers as a kid. I mean, I think you and I are the same age. No, we are the same
We're a
age.
little
I
older.
think. Yeah, but like a year, we're the same age. Don't
Yeah.
don't expose me here. Um, I think we also grew up during the prequel era, but I think my exposure to Star Wars was Attack of the Clones. I was too young for Phantom Menace to see it in the theaters, and after Attack of the Clones, it was the VHS the VHS special edition, which is like a very sought after print because it's the closest thing to the theatrical print of Star Wars, as far as I understand. It's the one that everybody tries to digitize and remaster in 4K because George Lucas has the prints hidden somewhere in Earth. But I think starting with Attack of the Clones is like a good segue into the original Star Wars in VHS. Um, so that was my first experience with Star Wars. What about you?
Well, mine was also Attack of the Clones, but I didn't have it on VHS or DVD. I saw it on TV with my dad,
Oh,
so that's how I remember it. Not even at the beginning. I watched the Coliseum scene where they're fighting all those creatures, and it turns into the Jedi battle.
Geonosis.
Yeah, so toward the end of the film.
Mhm.
That's my exposure, and then from there, we did end up getting all the DVDs of the original trilogy right
Oh,
before Sith came out, and we watched them all along with Phantom Menace. And yeah, just watched them all on DVD before ended up seeing them all in theaters before the release of Force Awakens in 2015 when they marathon them all. I did see Clone Wars, the animated one, in theaters too. But yeah,
oh,
that
me
was just
too.
yeah. We spent my friends and I a lot of days playing Star Wars on the field. Just of course, a lot of it was the prequel trilogy because that was the newest one. We did
Hmm.
find ourselves looking at the original, especially like Empire Strikes Back with its twist with Darth Vader revealing himself to be Luke Skywalker's father. The Ewoks, the Death Star. Like one of my favorite games actually from the GameCube is Rogue Squad.
Battlefront.
No,
Oh,
not
Rogue Squadron.
Squadron. That was such a fun game for GameCube. Like I was blown away by the technology and just the dogfighting. Like if I could, I would replay that game constantly because it's a blast.
I mean, Star Wars seems to be doing well on games. I mean, the Jedi Survivor games are good. I think they're fine in terms of gameplay. There's a new one coming in October, which is the pod racing one. But overall, I think gaming in our era was also really good with a lot of Star Wars games, like The Force Unleashed. What was the Dark Raven one?
The
Night
old
of the Old Republic. Yeah,
Republic.
those were really good back in the day. Unlike Disney Star Wars, which they don't release games, they just announce them. And if they
Yeah,
do, they release them with the worst publisher,
I know, right? It's
which is
very.
Ubisoft or EA.
I mean, they're changing that now. They have a new game coming out this year. It's like a racing Star Wars game.
Yeah, the
It's
pod racing. Yeah, it's like
yeah,
Mario Kart.
Galactic Racer. It's developed
Yeah,
by Secret Mode, Sumo Group, or whatever. I don't know, whatever you want to call it.
coming in October, I think,
Yeah,
to all your platforms like the Nintendo Switch too. Because why not?
but to EA's credit, I mean, they did give us the Jedi games, Fallen Order and Survivor.
Those are good. Those are good. The Battlefront games are the ones where they kind of screwed up.
Well, it was just the microtransactions. They are on their own decent games, but if you were to play them buying stuff, don't because they're pretty bad. But
Really bad.
yeah, that was my exposure. And looking back, I mean, it's easy. Today we're just talking the original trilogy, but I mean, if you were to compare the three, what makes this one stand out more to you than the other two?
You mean of all the films?
No, just like the three trilogies. Like, what makes the original trilogy stand out to you compared to the other ones?
I think the original trilogy has like this charm. I think it's well. First of all, I think you have to separate the three films from what they are, right? I think
Yeah.
A New Hope or Star Wars, as it was once known, it's a very director-driven film. I think George Lucas didn't know what the franchise was supposed to be because he thought a very cohesive story following the hero's journey, which is Luke needs to save the princess. It doesn't get as basic as that is. And the second one, he starts introducing really complex things like Darth Vader being the father, the Emperor Palpatine. And then the third one is like the ultimate resolution of the story. Really, you don't need more after that because we know what happens to the characters. And I don't know if purist Star Wars count what happens to the characters in the eyes of somebody else as canon, but that's a different conversation. And I think each film also represents technological advancements, because in the first one, the lightsabers were very rough to use because of how they managed to do that technology, which was reflective tape. And due to the motion of the shutter, that created the lightsaber effect, right? That was all practical. And I think that first rig was very difficult to use. And while George Lucas claims that these Jedi were meant to fight like samurais and the swords were meant to be heavy, we know that as the technology allowed him to move the actors more, case point with Empire Strikes Back, which that fight is way more fluid. When Luke is swinging the sword, the lightsaber, sorry, not sword. Don't kill me, Star Wars fans. That fight is way more fluid. And the third one, even more. You have the lightning effect by Palpatine, and I think each film also represented an evolution and a change of how things were done. Because realistically, the only influence that George Lucas had was Stanley Kubrick 2001 Space Odyssey, of how the space looks. And, maybe Star Trek, I don't know if Star Trek was alive at that point, but even the changes that he made, which was instead of creating synth sound, he hired John Williams, arguably the greatest composer of all time, and this guy delivers a masterpiece of score. I think a lot of people hate on Star Wars, but the original trilogy, especially the first Star Wars, symbolized the birth of the blockbuster era, which is still something that Hollywood is trying to hold nearby to that, in the sense that, you know, every studio wants blockbusters now. There's no indie films. And ironically, this started as an independent film because no studio wanted to um, give this to George Lucas. And I think this also shows that a franchise is as powerful as its merchandising. Because George Lucas signed the first contract on a low, but the merchandising is what allowed him to make this film happen and build the empire of what Star Wars is and sell it to Disney for that much money. But I don't know. What do you think?
No, I agree with all of that. And I mean, it's just crazy how it did end up finding this fan base. Like, he made it to pay tribute to those Flash Gordon serials that he used to watch back when he was young. Like, already he established himself as a filmmaker who tied to his nostalgia. Like, his first one, American Graffiti, was essentially a precursor to films, TV shows like Happy Days or even Grease, where it was at the time period of growing up in a 1950s rural America. And then THX 1138, that is just a look into like nerds and computers,
Well,
and they were at the time too.
that was the second version of THX because his first version was his senior thesis at USC. I mean, the
True.
short, which premiered at Cannes, and then he made the feature THX, which was help financed by Francis Ford Coppola. And you're right, then he made American Graffiti, or was it THX after American Graffiti?
No, he made an American Graffiti with Universal after.
Yeah, and American Graffiti turned him into an Oscar nominated director because that film got a lot of nominations, but still, he was not considered to be a serious director.
No, no,
At
he
the
wasn't.
time, he wanted to make Star Wars. So it's
Yeah,
crazy that at the time, even though he got nominated, he was not a serious director. What does that even mean?
yeah. But then he made this movie, and not only did he reap the benefits of it from taking that merchandising contract, but he turned it into an empire. Like, when Disney did end up buying Lucasfilm, it was primarily to get Star Wars, and then it came with everything else. But at least with the original, like, it's coming back to theaters for its 50th anniversary next year. And I want to know
Which
if they
print?
I don't know yet, but I do hope it's the non special edition that maybe Disney found a way to show off the original 1977 film as it was preserved all those years ago. Because I would like to see it as a film buff the way people saw it, like in an older theater back in that olden time, without the enhancements, without all of the audio cleanup, like as it originally was. Because I think there's something really special about seeing it preserved the way it was.
And even the music cues were made to the T,
Oh, yeah.
and those have changed a little bit with the addition of Java and Han Solo hanging out near the Millennium Falcon. Those things were not in the original cut.
Yeah, no, things like that. And just, those old effects, like, that were so groundbreaking, and how people ended up, reusing down the line.
Yeah, I mean, I think the closest I've seen is the Super 8 prints because I have the A New Hope for Star Wars and Empire Strikes Back, the two prints in Super 8.
Oh,
And the funny thing about those prints is if you see the film, they're edited in a way they're extended trailers. So New Hope, it's all about rescuing Leia. They don't even touch on the Death Star. So like the 15-minute cut is them saving Leia. And so you see a fraction of a frame of lightsabers, but the print is so like teared up that you don't see the lightsabers. You just see two glows of light. So you cannot tell which one is Obi-Wan and which one is Darth Vader, which I think is hilarious. So I think that's the closest I've gotten to see the actual prints. And like
that's
for
cool.
example, uh, Empire Strikes Back has the fight, but because it was so those films got released before the theatrical cut got released. So when Luke gets his hand shot by Vader, he just falls. Like they cut the part where he says, "I am your father," because they didn't want to spoil that for the theatrical thing. So it's such a weird juxtaposition of how it cuts, but it doesn't cut, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, no, of course.
Which I think it's also a shame that the Super 8 prints, for example, have gotten lost to collections, right? I wish those were available to stream in Disney Plus or something.
Yeah.
Because I think they should be preserved, but they aren't.
Well, no, that was a clause when he sold it to them. But a part of me, like, I don't have anything against those special editions. Like, some of them do enhance the films. Like, again, the ending,
Alderaan,
yeah, the
like
Endor
getting to
run,
Alderaan, yeah.
like stuff they complain about, like the Jabba scene, the addition to his Return of the Jedi, that whole band musical number. That stuff
Oh,
is, I'll admit, and the fact he continued to change it well into the 2000s is a little curious, and I don't understand. But hey, you know what? I get it. He wanted to keep altering, and if you have the money to change it, why not? Because he has the power that not a lot of other filmmakers do to go back and change them.
I mean, ultimately, it was his vision. At the very least, it was him screwing up, like other people, or like Kathleen Kennedy. Sorry, I don't know what happened there, but it's his vision after all.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think the originals had like this charm. They also were the ones that built the fan base. If you really think about it, I mean, I'm sure when you saw it with your dad knew what Star Wars was,
Oh
right?
yeah, he watched the original films when they came out, like released in his lifetime. So he got
Of
to see
course,
as
of
they
course.
were released.
I mean, it also like the idea of a blockbuster and spoilers. We are so desensitized to spoilers. I mean, we already know how movies are going to end just because of the trailer. Like the whole Spider-Man thing with is Toby coming back. They really spoil it in the trailer, in the Brazilian trailer to be more specifically. But around that time, spoilers were locked tight.
Yeah,
Although I think a magazine did spoil that Vader was Luke's father. I think it
really.
got leaked somewhere. I read it sometime. I don't remember where, but I think the way people consume movies was different, and I think that's something that we're missing in today's landscape nowadays. Like the idea of lining up for a movie rather than having your seat reserved. I think that was something special back then. And nowadays nobody buys toys, but back then people did like their collectibles.
They sure
you know
did. It's all about the merchandise, and it made like its actors into stars. Like I know Mark Hamill's still getting the
so
even all these years later.
I'm not sure if he, I mean, I think he struggled to let Luke die, and I don't know if he's the best actor of the three.
Well, no, that would be Harrison Ford. Honestly,
I
he's
think
had.
Carrie Fisher would have been great if she had not struggled personally with her own personal issues.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. But she was the funniest and a brilliant writer. I mean, just seen her career as a ghostwriter throughout the rest of.
She was really a wonderful actress, but she struggled with mental health issues after
Yeah.
Star Wars. And I think if she had been working with the right director, she could have been special. I mean, she started acting later in life, but like nothing serious, if you know what I mean.
No, definitely.
Was she even Fever Pitch, the one with Drew Barrymore? Was she in that film?
Fever Pitch? Oh man, what made you bring that up?
I don't know. I think I remember seeing her in that movie.
I'm looking this up as we do it, but I don't believe she was. No, no, she wasn't.
But she was friends with Drew Barrymore, I think.
Maybe, I guess.
I don't know. Maybe it's the daughter that is friends with Drew Barrymore.
Maybe.
But like she had like a good reputation, like good reputation after that.
Yeah.
But nothing like Star Wars.
No.
She was in When Harry Met Sally.
Oh, yeah, yep, she was because she played the friend.
Yeah, that's why I got confused. I
Yeah.
mean,
more sense. I was like, fever pitch. That's so random.
Yeah, Reiner.
Yeah, Rob Reiner. And
Yeah.
then I guess to end it all, what would you say your favorite is of the original trilogy?
Oh, it's so hard to pick. I mean, I think my favorite would be A New Hope,
The
just
original?
because of what it means, and I think that's where the focus was at its most. Not that the other ones are not focused, but I think that one was so focused on telling a cohesive story that they didn't know if they had a sequel. I mean, it ends with the rebellion winning, you know?
Yeah,
I mean, I know Darth Vader is alive, whatever, but it ends with that. It ends with Luke trusting the Force. The hero's journey is complete. And I like what they did in Empire, although I think the Return of the Jedi is the weakest out of the three. It does tell the story of Luke, and it does it way better than anybody else could have. What about you? You're going to be an Empire guy?
no, I'm not an Empire guy. For me, it would be Return of the Jedi. That is my all-time favorite.
Fair enough.
I just like
Why?
how it mixes the fantasy elements and it just offers like a pretty satisfying conclusion versus something like, I mean, don't get me wrong, Empire is dark and it does take the story in a more mature direction and the original, but you do see the flaws of the original just because it is not even a first time director, but on that scale, making mistakes that I mean, film analysis and buffs have called out a lot over the years. And
Yeah, but
Empire, that's the one I probably watched the least as a kid of the original trilogy.
yeah, but those mistakes are iconic. I know the helmet guy crashing into the door and R2D2 not working, but I think those excel in what people felt so connected because it felt so human. Like unlike new Disney productions where everything is working perfectly fine, everything is so sanitized. That first one felt like a filmmaker desperately trying to bring this world to life, which was the case with George Lucas. And his brilliance, the imagination, like the way they crafted the miniature fighting at the end, and how he was influenced by World War II footage, I think that's just phenomenal. And the other two are an extension of that with somebody that already had the budget to make that happen,
Yeah.
if you know what I mean.
No, I do.
I think Star Wars has a bad reputation because people perceive it as just popcorn and not thoughtful cinema. But at the very least, the original trilogy was thoughtful, and in many ways, it was the birth of genre, which is the blockbuster cinema, and it all came from an independent film made by a guy who nobody believed on. So all the studios laughed at him, and they forced him to hire a storyboard artist to get this film made. So it's also a reminder to Hollywood that maybe the next guy that it sounds crazy could be the next George Lucas.
Yeah.
So think twice before you reject people because that's why we don't have original ideas. Everything is a reboot, a requel, a sequel, a prequel. We need studios to say yes to these type of projects because if you don't approve of this, you won't have the next Star Wars. And
Yeah.
if you don't approve of the first Star Wars, you don't have Star Wars at all. So hopefully Hollywood thinks that, you
I
know.
agree. But yeah, that's just one trilogy we're talking about. We've got a whole other one to go over
Whew.
next week, along with the return of Mortal Kombat. So get ready. We're going to be talking the prequel trilogy next week.
The prequel trilogy, the one that everybody used to hate and now they love.
Yeah, it's what happens when you grow up with it. Um,
Well, I don't know if it's nostalgia or the fact that the subsequent Star Wars eras were not so good. And it had like 8 seasons of Clone Wars to help it out.
that too.
And two Clone Wars, because there's also the non official Clone Wars, which I think they're actually better than the official Clone Wars. if you know what I mean.
I do.
Yeah.
Well, we'll find out
Well,
next week. I'll sign us off. He's Andres Ramirez. You can follow him at Jaro2096. I'm the Zach Houston. We're below the line underscore podcast. Give us a like and subscribe. We're on Spotify, YouTube, and yeah, give us a follow on Instagram if you want to keep hearing more about our talks, especially this month with Star Wars ahead of Mandalorian and Grogu coming out.
let me ask you a question. So, were you a Sith, a Padawan, or a Jedi today?
Oh, I think I was a Padawan learning this process.
Okay. I felt like a Padawan myself too. Maybe next time we can get promoted with Anakin and fall into the dark side.
I'm like,
Okay. By the way, this will be our pre episode before May the 4th. So, everybody go watch Star Wars and May the 4th be with you.
may the fourth be with you.
Bye bye.
Bye.